Hey everyone, it is, oh gosh, what day is it? It's Monday. I'm working on the twins and that big old funny looking head, Nicholas. I just got his veins on. They're a little darker than I usually do them, and he's shaded a bit darker than I would usually shade a baby, but he's going to be an alternative. And I'm just getting some veins on twin A and twin B, and they're shaded a little bit on the dark side too, just as I thought was going to happen. That blue just got sucked in, and I probably should have gone a little lighter, but I think it's going to work out. I am just letting you follow me make these babies, and I was thinking, what am I going to talk about? You know, I thought since these were Make-A-Wish babies, maybe I would talk about my daughter's story a little bit. And you know, it's sad. It's a sad thing. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not looking for pity. The way I see it, all things happen for a reason. I might not like it. I might not understand it. It might break me. I'm not the first mom on this planet to lose a child, nor will I be the last, unfortunately. It's at that point I usually get sarcastic when I'm talking to somebody, you know. Just we haven't come very far with pediatric cancer, or not as far as I think we could if we had all the right funding in all the right places and brains working on this. I think it's interesting that we have medications that will put hair back on a man's head and give him a 4-hour erection, but we can't figure out how to keep kids alive. And I am one of those people who believes that a lot of this is environmental and kind of the fault of humans in the first place. I know that you can be born with a genetic predisposition for illness, you know, that's science. But I think environmental factors will trigger it. And by that I mean we have dirty water and we have filthy air. We put chemicals on our body all day long. We brush our teeth with chemicals. We have additives in our food that aren't meant for consumption. And I think that contributes to it. I just wish it was something that no kid had to endure and no mom had to talk about ever again. It's a club I don't want to belong to. Again, I'm going to tell the story because some people are curious. If you're not, if this is something that will trigger you or bum you out, please don't watch this video. I'm going to talk about my kid getting cancer and dying. Not all kids die from cancer, but mine did. And I'll start from the beginning. Let's just turn back the hands of that clock and go all the way to 1987. I was 20-something, young. Back then, most of my friends were having babies in their early 20s, so I didn't feel like it was weird. I don't think I was totally ready for kids at that age, but that's what was going on. She was my second daughter. When I was about 6 months pregnant with her, I went to a friend's barbecue and we had to go on this very unsafe road that was known for having a lot of accidents. And that day I tried to get out of going to that party like 5 or 6 times. I think I was just pregnant and tired and really didn't feel like packing up a 2-year-old and making this long drive out in the heat to go float in some water and get a million mosquito bites. And on our way home, we were full of mosquito bites, tired, sunburnt, and I was very uncomfortable. I had really bad heartburn. I'd eaten a lot of spicy food, and I had river muck and sandy bits all in my parts, and I was just not comfortable, so I undid my seatbelt, took off my bathing suit, sat in the passenger seat with just a t-shirt on and a towel over my lap, and I cracked a joke saying, hope we don't get into a car accident. Won't that be funny, trying to explain why I'm naked? I felt much more comfortable, and I did not put my seatbelt on. I don't know why, but I just don't remember putting it back on. I think I may have had heartburn and just didn't feel like it. I don't know. We didn't have the seatbelt laws then that we have now. And my 2-year-old wasn't even in a car seat. We were in a truck, a small Nissan truck. And she was just sitting in the middle of the bench seat with a seatbelt on, just a regular seatbelt. Back then, things weren't the same as they are now. And we were listening to the radio and talking and driving, and we hit a wall of traffic. The traffic was on the opposite side. It was just a 2-lane highway. And it was called Pacheco Pass. A lot of accidents on that road. And there must have been a really bad car accident on the other side. The traffic was blocked up, and we were thinking to ourselves how lucky that we left when we did, and that wasn't us. And just as we were talking and thinking that, a car kind of came out. We were going freeway speed on our side, and he was just moseying out. I don't know if he was trying to take a look or trying to make a quick U-turn or what he was trying to do. But we did not have enough time to slow down. It was either run into the mountain and crash and be smashed, or risk, I guess, running into him. And we hit him head on. And I, because I wasn't wearing the seatbelt, I hit the dashboard with my hip, my shoulder, and the side of my body, bounced back, and then got pushed through the windshield. Then after I hit the windshield, my body got pushed back into the car, and I got trapped under the glove compartment. I think I blacked out for a second, opened my eyes, realized that we had hit, looked at my daughter to make sure she was okay immediately. She was crying. The look on my husband's face was horrific. I guess I was bleeding, and he was very afraid. Our daughter was okay. We had put our arms out to shield her from the accident, and we both got a really nasty bruise on the inside of our arms from doing that. She was fine. He got out of the car with her. And lucky for us, the car in back of us was an off-duty / paramedic, I believe. Another car, a couple cars down, was an off-duty police officer, and they just went to work. They got me out of that car. And it took me a minute to remember that I was pregnant. And once it hit me like an entire building fell on top of me, and I panicked. And I said, oh my God, the baby. Oh my God, the baby. And I thought for sure that was it, you know. And I just started crying. I was so worried that she was not okay. And I kind of knew that my daughter was okay, but some part of me kept thinking, maybe she wasn't, and so I kept yelling, is she okay, is she okay? And my husband was out of the car. He had hurt his big toe. He was wearing his seatbelt, so he didn't get hurt. The baby had a bruise on her hip from the metal of the seatbelt, but that's about it. She was okay. But I was stuck in that car, pinned in. They ended up freeing me by breaking all the plastic underneath the glove compartment. They broke it all open and freed my leg, which was pretty beat up and cut up. Had some cuts on my head. And then somehow, seemed like it took forever, an ambulance got in. They got me out on a gurney. And sure enough, I was out there in the middle of the road for all the world to see. No underwear on, half naked, laying on a gurney, in shock. It was a wild, crazy mess. And they were gonna helicopter me out, but they changed their mind, and they were able to get me going in the direction we were coming from to a community hospital. Turns out the car accident that caused all the craziness on the other side was a double fatality. So, you know, they were using a lot of their resources, including their airlifts, to get those people out to try to save them. Some people did not make it. So even though it was scary and awful for me, it was much scarier and awful for other people. The guy who we hit, I'm not sure if he was drinking or not, but he was panicked, and I think he thought he was going to jail. So he kept saying that his chest hurt, and in reality he did hurt his nose. I think he may have even broken his nose, I'm not sure. But I had to share an ambulance with him, which was pretty awful. Yeah, he knew he was in big trouble. I ended up being okay. I had to have a lot of stitches. They couldn't x-ray my hips. They just x-rayed my neck to make sure it didn't hurt my neck. But my hips hurt a lot. And they ascertained at that point that the baby was okay. They monitored her for a little while, and she seemed to be okay. Knowing what I know now, they were pretty irresponsible. I mean, my placenta could have been separated or had separated from the trauma of that, and I could have bled to death in my sleep, but luckily that wasn't the case, and they told me to follow up with my doctor the next day. I belonged to Kaiser at that time. I'm not sure I was getting the best care in the whole world, but that's what was going on. They checked me out. They said, you know, that baby is still small enough that it was in a big water balloon and seemed to be okay, and I seemed to be okay. And I was complaining about my hips hurting, and they said I would probably be very sore for some time. That I, you know, got hit really hard. It's true. I was sore the rest of my pregnancy. Very, 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 very sore. And to the point where I was in pain for the rest of that pregnancy. I have a high pain tolerance, so I just dealt with it thinking there's nothing I can do. And then about 8 months into that pregnancy, I had severe, severe, severe back pain to the point where I just got dehydrated and sick, and ended up going to the doctor, and they hospitalized me for several days for a really bad kidney infection. They didn't think it was related to the car accident. They thought I was passing kidney stones. And why, I don't know, but that's what they thought happened. I never did. They put me on a lot of antibiotics, and I stayed in the hospital. The rest of my pregnancy was pretty uneventful, other than the fact that my hips were always hurting. I couldn't lay down. I mostly slept sitting up, and the pain was pretty bad. I'd gone to my last prenatal appointment, and the doctor measured me. It was a doctor that I hadn't seen before, and she said, I need to do that again. I don't know if you're having a contraction or what's going on here, but I need to measure you again. And I said, oh, is something wrong? She said, well, if what I'm measuring is correct, you've got a 10-pound baby in there. And I said, ha ha ha, and she laughed too, like, you know, I was kind of a tiny girl, big belly. She just kind of let it go, like, well, it's whatever size it will be. And that was about it. She told her that my hips had been hurting, and she said that's pretty normal for late in pregnancy, and I was carrying a big baby, so, you know, don't worry, it'll be over soon enough. And I was about 2 weeks overdue. And with that baby, I had, I think my entire labor was 3 hours. I had her rather quickly. Well, she did weigh 10 pounds. It was exciting and quite painful. I always tell this story that I knew all my children when they were born. It's just like I knew them forever. It's just like an old friend was coming home. I don't know, that might sound silly to some people, but that's kind of how I felt. It just felt like, there you are, you know, with my first daughter. And I think I may have said this before in a different video. When I saw her, she was me. She was me, she was my grandmother, she was every woman ever in my family. The shape of her face and her nose, and I can't explain it. And when my second daughter was born, I didn't know her at all. I reached down when she was born and held her to me and just started sobbing. Heck, you know, who wouldn't be emotional? I stayed up late, you know, that night at the hospital, and